Hey guys, Jim Nix, and I'm back with another video. This is going to be a kind of a fun one. I've got all these photos here that I took in Bratislava, Slovakia a number of years ago. It's 7 exposures, as you can see here. It was shot on a tripod. I'm going to go ahead and hit Create HDR and go ahead and get into the magic shop, which is what I call Aurora. Okay, here we go. It's tone mapping. It's kind of working through its stuff. There we go. And I had a question recently about my photos. When I'm doing webinars and I'm doing these tutorials, I just use JPEGs. I'm actually not using a full-size TIFF or anything because it just runs quicker. They're smaller files if they're JPEGs, right? So I want it to be as snappy and as quick as I can make it when you guys are watching, so you don't have to wait on my computer to chug through stuff. Okay, so here's your base HDR. As I said, this is a view from actually atop of a restaurant. It's called the UFO. It actually looks like a UFO. It's a big, looks like a flying saucer on stilts on the top of this bridge looking over the old town of Bratislava. It's super cool. You can look it up if you like, and if you ever go there, it's really cool. It's only about 45 minutes or so away from Vienna, Austria. Anyway, beautiful little town, and I'll shut up about that so we can get into the photo work. This is the base HDR, 7 exposures blended. As you can see, it wasn't that dark, but I'm going to darken it up a little bit and kind of do some things. Also, I think you'll be interested in this video because I'm using color toning, which I use quite a bit, but I'm actually going to use it twice to make some subtle adjustments to the photo. And one thing I'd like to point out is you see the light streaks here. If I was doing this today, by the way, this photo was shot probably about 4 years ago, but if I was shooting today, I would probably have put a filter on and gotten some long exposures where I had light trails covering the entire street. But, you know, people change, and here we are. So let me get started. I've got my base HDR. I'm going to add a preset. So I'm going to start with balanced and realistic. And one of the things you'll notice is this photo is fairly blue, and I just made it bluer with that preset. But I'm going to change that around a little bit. But I like that balanced and realistic. I start with that one quite a bit because I just think it's really good. And as the name implies, it does a good job of giving you a realistic view of a realistic HDR implementation. So there's that. I'm going to go ahead. By the way, I'm doing like 8 layers here, so I'm going to get a little snappy. I'm going to add vivid memories to this first layer. And let me bring that up. There we go. And if you look at it, it's going to look like crap, to be honest, this first version. There we go. I mean, that looks terrible, right? So we're going to add a luminosity mask. And if you haven't seen my video on that, I recommend checking it out. It definitely helps explain luminosity masks. And by the way, you can see some dust spots here and there. I'd clean those up later in Lightroom or somewhere, but I just wanted to let you know I didn't miss those. I just haven't taken them out before I took this over to Aurora. So here's vivid memories at 100%. I'm going to add a luminosity mask. So I'm going to hit create luminosity mask. And so luminosity mask, basically they create a mask based on the light values or the luminance values in the photo. And so again, I recommend my other video. It's a few videos back, a couple weeks ago or whatever it was. But luminosity masks are incredibly powerful. And you'll notice when it gets applied, this preset, there you go, it's changed considerably. So it's no longer as blue and as intense as it was, and that's because of the luminosity mask. But the other thing I'm going to do is also play with blend modes, and I did that in a recent video. I think it was about a week or so ago, where I talk about blend modes and using those. I used to always think of those as going with textures, but really blend modes go with layers. And so I'm going to change the blend mode here. I'll show you. You can just change these around. There's soft light, and there's hard light. There's a number of different things. The one I'm going to use is actually the color blend mode. I just like the look of that one. And also note that usually the blend modes have a much stronger effect on the photo, but because I've combined it with a luminosity mask, it's being very subtle. So when you start playing with the luminosity mask, it's going to make your adjustments, whether it's a preset or a preset with a blend mode adjustment, it's going to be much more subtle than before. So that's that layer. I'm going to add another one. This is going to be the Realistic Dreamy, which I absolutely love. You've probably seen me use it in a number of these tutorials. If you've watched them, if you haven't, hey, what are you doing? Go watch my other tutorials. I'm kidding. Realistic Dreamy is coming on board here. It's going to be at 100% because that's the default setting. Sorry, I'm scratching my back. So give that a moment to populate onto the photo. And there you go. Once again, just completely horrible. But once again, I'm going to add a luminosity mask. So we're going to do that and give it a moment here while it builds. And then I'm also going to play with the blend mode on this one. So keep this picture right here in mind. And then once the luminosity mask is applied, you will see that the effect on the photo is much more subtle and very, very soft and sort of a gentle application. And that's the beauty of luminosity masks. And that's why I use them probably on every photo. I don't use them on every layer. You notice I didn't use one on the first layer. That was just realistic or balanced and realistic straight at 100%. But since then I've been using them. So there's a realistic dreamy at 100% with the luminosity mask. But I'm going to change the blend mode here to soft light. It's very subtle, but I just liked it, so I applied it. Now we're going to do some color toning. And I'm going to do this a couple of times in this video. And we're going to start here. I'm going to go get this one. There you go. Now that gave a little bit of a pink and purple glow over here, which I like, and it reduced some of the blue. Let me show you. So much more blue, and then with the color toning applied, much more natural result. I love color toning. I highly recommend you use it if you haven't experimented with it. In fact, I may do a video on it. But I'm going to adjust the opacity here. I'm going to bring that down to, let's say, about 80%, something like that. And there we go. So let me show you that layer, what that did. There was very blue, and then the color toning made it much more natural and brought up some of the reds and pinks of all these lights down here, which I like. So after that, I'm going to go make some color adjustments. So let me go in here. I'm going to go first, I'm going to go into the color, and I'm going to take the temperature. And I'm going to bump that up, make it a little warmer, and I'm also going to bump the tint up a little bit. But I'm going to take the saturation down. I'm going to drop that about 15. And then I'm also going to play with the color contrast here. This isn't something I do, but if you'll notice when I'm moving this slider up a little bit, it's darkening the image a little bit, which I like. This was before it got to be very dark and blue outside, and therefore that helped to darken it a little bit. Let me show you what these color adjustments have done. There's the before and there's the after. So it's starting to look more like a nighttime image, which, you know, it was taken prior to I guess, well, not really sunset. Well, so time of day was sunset, but there was not really a sunset because of all the thick cloud cover. So anyway, you know what I'm saying. The other thing I'm going to do is go into the color filter menu, and I'm going to look at these yellows here. I'm going to take, if you notice, the yellows around the lights at the base of the castle are really too much. So I'm going to actually take the luminance of those up to about 35. And I'm going to, no, sorry, that's saturation. I'm on the wrong side. Luminance, here we go. I'm going to take that up about 35. I was wondering why it wasn't changing. Let's say 35. And then I'm going to take the saturation down to about 45 or something like that. So to me, that looks a lot more natural. Let me show you where it was. See, it was very orange and really saturated, and it's not really how it looks, right? That looks a lot better. It's a yellow light, but it's an off-whitish yellow, so much more subtle now. And I'm also going to take the saturation of the blue down, and I'm going to take that down by about 20 or so. Yeah, how about 20? So let me show you. There's the before and there's the after for those color adjustments. So I like where that is. I'm going to go add some clarity. Now, I don't have to do this on a separate layer every time. I just like to, because sometimes I may want to go back and isolate some adjustments. Usually the color stuff I'll do on the same layer, but sometimes I'll pull clarity and details out on a separate layer. In this case, I'm going to bump the clarity up across the entire image, so I technically could have done that on the last one, but I'm going to call that 35 or 36, whatever that is. That's all the way across the image. Let me show you what that did. So it added a little bit more pop in the sky, and of course the details in the cityscape, which I like. So now I'm going to add some noise, or actually I'm going to remove some noise. I'm going to add some denoise. How about that? So here we go. I'm going to slide this slider about 20, 25, 24, and I use smooth a lot. I don't really ever use super smooth, but I like to use the amount in the smooth slider in conjunction. I always do the amount higher than the smooth, but I like it. It helps smooth things out. If you look at the water and you look at the sky, they're much smoother now, which I like, but I don't want it in the noise reduction to be applied here, right, across the castle and the cityscape and all that. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to brush it into, into the sky and brush it into the water. So actually, I can use right or left bracket key. The left will reduce the size, and I'm doing this kind of roughly because I'm recording it. The left bracket key will shrink the brush, and the right bracket key will increase the brush. So I'm just kind of running over this, and you also notice these dust spots, they start to kind of disappear on you when you apply noise reduction, which is kind of nice. But, you know, I still see them in a couple places. Let me check my masks. Missed a little bit up there. Again, this is kind of rough because I'm recording it. But, you know, I always like to go back, clean up my mask a little bit. You know, I could come back here with a smaller brush and make it a little tighter, but I'm not going to mess with it right now. So let me show you. There's there's the before and there's the after. I don't know how well you can see that over the video, but it definitely smoothed out the sky and the water, which I love smooth skies and water. It's just one of my things. Now I'm going to do color toning again. So let me, I'm going to call it color toning 2. And let me get down here. And the reason I did this, let me see, I like this one. I just liked a little extra pop of that kind of orangey glow. Let me show you what that did. There's the before, still, you know, fairly blue across the entire image. And there's the after with the color toning, or it's technically called split toning, like in Lightroom and other places, but it's called color toning here. Anyway, it helped add a little bit more natural color, I think, to the foreground, not the foreground, to the cityscape and around these lights and stuff. And it took a little bit of that edge of the blue off. One more time. There's the before, there's the after. So I like that quite a bit. And then the only other thing I did was I came in here and I added a pop of contrast. And that's in this tone menu, this first menu here. I just bumped the contrast up a decent amount. I wanted to kind of get a little bit darker image. And there you go, right? So that's a contrast adjustment. Let me show you what that did. There's the before, there's the after. I actually might give it a little bit more. There you go. It's given a little bit nicer feel to the city. I think this image, or this part of the image, pops a little bit more. Let me show you one more time. Let me turn that off and back on. It also gives a little bit more, well, really it just makes the whole image pop better, I think. So one more time, contrast off, contrast on. Now let me go back to where we started. That's the base HDR, which is 7 exposures merged with no adjustments. And then this is after adding all these layers. So let me go back. We had a preset here, balanced and realistic. Then we had vivid memories, then realistic, dreamy. We did some split toning. We made some other color adjustments, did a little clarity, did a little denoise, did some more split toning, and then added some contrast. So that's 8 layers on top of the original base layer. And so that's 9 sets of adjustments, if you will. But we're able to take this photo, which is very flat, boring, colorless, almost lifeless, and turn it into that, which I think looks way better, much more realistic, and much more exciting, really, to look at. And I think it's a beautiful image. And I hope to go back to Bratislava one day. And in fact, I was out shooting that night with a wonderful photographer. His name is Miroslav Petrasko, and he runs hdrshooter.com. So if you haven't been to that site, I recommend you check it out. He's a wealth of HDR information and a great guy. So you'll love his photos. One more time, there's the original and there's the final. So that's it. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Have a great afternoon. See you later.